Yep, here we are, and we are live for another business and property entrepreneur podcast. We are in for a big treat today. Oh my goodness, yes, we are. We're going to be talking about business, scaling a business, starting a business, everything about what you need to do with business in this modern day and age. Business is one of the fastest changing things if you want to stay on top of things and stay profitable, which some people don't talk about that side of business. They talk about online, they talk about, nice, shiny object stuff, but they don't talk about the nitty gritty of what goes on. So first of all, thank you, Arnon, for joining me here.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me, inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. I know you've got an amazing tribe, a lot of people that work with you, trust you, respect you. So when you asked me to extend a little bit of my time to give some people the opportunity to hear a little bit about what I have to share and what I have to say, I could not say no. So great to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Yeah, we're going to have some fun. I know for the people who are here live, we were a little bit late, so maybe they didn't think we were going ahead. Bit of technical difficulties, but we're here now. So if you start joining, which I can see people are, make sure you give us a comment. Let us know where you are in the world. And yeah, if you want to be in a chance to win some goodies, could be coaching, it could be a book, it could be a program, it could be some merchandise. And what you need to do is hit the share button. Let us know that you've shared it, and then also tag at least 10 other people. We'll do a little draw at the end, so go ahead and do that. Because yeah, as you may have seen online, it says the $1 billion man. So we're going to get into that. What does this mean? Arnon is and has been blessed to have insights to many of his own businesses, but also other people's businesses, as well as a trainer, as a coach, as a mentor, as a also property investor, and someone who buys businesses and builds businesses himself. So I want to get straight into it. Arnon, give us the highlight reel. Who is Arnon? Where did he come from? How did he get to doing what he's doing today?
First of all, like I said again, thank you for inviting me, Mark. In short, 60 seconds or less, born in South Africa, parents middle class -1. I think calling my parents and the way I grew up middle class is a little bit of an overstatement. But yeah, I grew up in a normal family. My parents separated in my young teens. Single mom, ended up living obviously with my mom. And we're 3 siblings, so I'm the eldest of 3. By the age of 15, things were really difficult. Obviously, my parents had been separated by then, lost all contact with my father, dropped out of school, went to work. No degree, I didn't finish school, none of that stuff. But I went to work to help my mom put food on the table. And I realized at a very young age, 16, 17, at that age, I realized that if I wanted to make something of myself, it wasn't going to be through the academics. It would be through entrepreneurship, owning a business, growing a business, buying businesses, doing something in the entrepreneurship world. Because back in those days, if you didn't finish school and you didn't have a degree, it was looked upon very differently than it's looked upon today. And so I knew the only way I could create wealth for myself, for my family, for my loved ones was through business. And I built my first serious business. I started at the age of 23. I exited it at the age of 27. 28, I repositioned some of my income, those earnings from the sale of the business, invested it into property, and the property just offset tremendous amounts of passive income. And I had actually invested in the strategy that I know you're a master at teaching about. I was focused primarily on SAs, so serviced accommodation. And I had SAs, I had a management team behind me, I had a booking agency, and age 28, I became completely financially free. Nowadays, I live in what I call the Golden Triangle. I am based primarily in the Netherlands. I spend a lot of time in the UK, and I also reside in Spain. I have a home in Mallorca, Palma de Mallorca, which for obvious reasons is, it's one of the most amazing places to be, especially in Europe. And I have about 130, maybe 135,000 students from around 65 different countries. I'm also very blessed to work with a lot of business owners, business leaders like yourself, people that have businesses, anything from 1, 2, 3, 4 million pounds. My biggest clients do 120 million. I've got clients doing 90 million. And my biggest client does 400 million a year. And basically, I'm a strategist. And as a kid, I grew up on the game called chess, which I'm sure a lot of your viewers and your listeners are familiar with. So I was a champion, a chess champion at a very young age. And that served me really well in nowadays where business is like a chessboard. And so what I do is when I'm working and coaching and training entrepreneurs and business owners, I just treat their business like a chess game. And my power, one of my superpowers, is basically I can see 5, 6, 7 steps forward. And I can already tell them where they have to look out, beware, or get excited about the opportunities that are ahead. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I also am a business owner. I've built multiple businesses, sold businesses. And right now I'm acquiring through one of my biggest activities. I'm buying multi-million pound businesses in the UK around the M25 area. And actually on Friday, we just closed another deal. Nice little deal, almost 2 million pounds. And we're very excited to add that to our portfolio. So I'm going to stop there because I vomited all that information on all our listeners, and pass the mic over to you.
Yeah, good. So like, yeah, this gives people an idea of what they can ask questions around. So if you're in property, what questions you have about building a business. If you also want to take the strategies that we teach in terms of how to raise capital, not just buy then properties to add value to it, but also there might be an industry, a sector, a passion you have. Let's hear your questions, how you might be able to do the same with businesses as well. So on thousands of people all over the world that you've come into contact with, they all want to generate wealth. They want to, have a better standard of living. What are the biggest problems that you see people encounter when they want to start out? So like these are people who are starting out in business. They want to quit a job or they want to build a business. What are the biggest problems they come up against?
Yeah, great question. So one thing that I see so much happening, regardless of where I teach, where I train, or where I meet people, is people always come up to me and say, Arnon, what is one of the secrets to success? If you could share with me one out of the dozens and dozens that are out there, I'm in a job or I'm starting out, what is a golden nugget you can share with me that can change my trajectory and help me become more successful, financially free, and ultimately, get rich and live a happy, healthy life? And I always say to people, one of the most important things you need to ask yourself is you have to ask yourself, are you interested in success or are you committed to success? And let me explain the difference. When a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I want also to travel around the world. I want to have financial freedom. I want to be able to go do and see and experience whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want. Show me the path. And one of my first questions is, are you interested in success or are you committed? And the difference is that if you're just interested in success, if you're interested in financial freedom, if you're interested on getting out of your job and starting a business, if you're interested, you're most likely to only do what is convenient and what is comfortable. And human beings, from my experience, from my humble experience, when they only do what they're comfortable doing and what is convenient, they don't achieve much. And so the distinction, one of the key distinctions is when I ask that question is I want to understand, are you interested in success or are you committed? Because like I said, if you're interested, you'll only do what's easy, convenient, and comfortable. But if you're committed, you will do whatever it takes to win, morally, legally, and ethically. And it's a completely different mindset and it's a completely different energy. If you want success as badly as you want to breathe, that's when you succeed. Not when you want to put your toe in the water and gauge the temperature. And so if I can leave the listeners and everybody watching, listening to this podcast, you've got to ask yourself, are you someone who's just interested or are you committed? And I made that decision at a very young age, obviously growing up, as I mentioned earlier, with a single mom. And one of the biggest impactful moments that changed the trajectory of my life is, I'll never forget, I was sitting at home one evening. Late at night, must have been 9, 10 o'clock at night. My mum was at the time working 2 jobs. She had a day job, she had her night job. And I remember there was a knock on the door. And I went over to the door, I opened the door, and there was nobody at the door. But what someone had done is someone had left some groceries on the foot of the door. And there was some bread, there was some eggs, there was some beans, and basically we were receiving charity in the form of food, which on one hand was amazing because we were struggling, obviously. But something else happened to me when I was going through that very experience, is that I made a commitment that I would do whatever it takes to succeed. That living like this was not an option. And that's why it drove me to become financially free by the age of 28. It was a driver through pain. We're all motivated by pain and pleasure. And unfortunately, I was really motivated by pain, like most people. And that pain that I experienced created a commitment, an internal subconscious commitment, that having success, creating wealth, becoming financially free wasn't a maybe, a could be, a should be. It became an absolute must. So the key question to all our listeners, to all your tribe, Mark, would be, are you just interested, or are you committed to success?
I suppose that might be difficult for people to understand until they actually get going and start moving in a direction, start a business, want to be a property entrepreneur. We're always saying the difference between like a property investor, just someone who's average, looking at basics, numbers, or a real entrepreneur, someone who knows how to set up teams and build something that's scalable. I was also writing an article earlier about how people, they want to quit their 40-hour-a-week job to go work for themselves for 100 hours a week. So like, what is, like, once somebody starts, because obviously people come to you because they've probably got problems, or you come across people who are having issues or challenges. So like, once people have started, what are the major challenges people are running into? That's a really
great question. I think one of the challenges that I see is that there's two. I'm going to give you two that are very common that come up. Number one is people don't realize that success comes with a sacrifice. You can't take, and I'm sure your audience, your tribe, and you've heard this before, of course, there is no elevator to success. You've got to take the stairs. And so a lot of people underestimate the amount of sacrifices that comes with creating financial freedom, becoming successful, and living the dream life that you deserve, that you want to give to yourself, your tribe, your family, your kids, your grandparents, your parents, etc. And so no success comes without sacrifice. And so one of the key things that I always say to people when they're starting out, or before they get started, I always say, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because if they say, I'm not willing to sacrifice anything, then I'm honest with them. I say, probably starting is not a good idea. Getting into business is probably not a good idea, because it requires a lot of mental and emotional resilience to climb that ladder. And so the first thing is that a lot of people underestimate the amount of sacrifices that needs to be made to succeed, or at least to arrive at a place where the business or businesses or the properties, whatever it is generating income that's going to create a lifestyle for them that they can go all in. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to say is, what I see a lot of people making a mistake with is that a lot of people tend to be one of the two. Some people are great starters. They know how to start. They know how to kickstart. They know how to get things moving, but they don't know how to finish. And sometimes it's the other way around. Some people are great finishers, but they don't know how to set things up. They don't know how to initiate the first engagements, the first lines of communication with potential clients, potential customers, or where to get the first property, or how to raise the first amount of money for the first deal or the first business they want to buy. And so a lot of the times I see people that are getting into business, they don't understand that you've got to be a great starter, but you've got to be a phenomenal finisher. And sometimes people try to be both. And most people are not built for being both. And some people are great starters. Like, for example, for me, I am a phenomenal starter. You bring me a business idea, I'll get it off the ground. But I'm not a great finisher. And that's why when I look at my success with the multi-million pound businesses I've grown, bought, sold, etc., I've always surrounded myself with tremendous finishers. Because at the end of the day, so many people, and I'll just own this. I'll own this comment or this feedback. I'm a great starter, but I would never be rewarded for just starting. The people who get rewarded in this world are the people who finish. An Olympian doesn't receive a golden medal for running 80% of a race. And so one of the mistakes that I see is, number one, entrepreneurs want to take the elevator to success. They don't want to take the stairs. And in other words, they don't want to make sacrifices that are necessary, required, and a must to succeed in business. And the second thing is, a lot of people don't know themselves well enough, whether they're starters or finishers, and they try to be both, when actually they might be just great starters or great finishers. Richard Branson, I recently saw an interview with Richard Branson. So Richard Branson, I'm sure all your listeners know who he is. He said, the way I build my company is I have a great idea, and then I go to my competitor who's doing what I want to do, and I hire the second most important person in that company, and I say, come partner with me. So Richard Branson's a great starter, but he brings in a phenomenal finisher. And that's one of the secrets to my success. And I think that's something that holds a lot of people back, is they try to be both.
Yeah, and when I'm studying, I love the definition of words, and it's so powerful. And the word sacrifice, by definition, because I think a lot of people think negatively about it, like giving something up. And if you read the definition, that is what it says, but that's only half of it. Yeah, half of it says you got to give something up. The other half is in place of for something of more value.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like I think like a lot of people, and I've been through this myself, of thinking like, oh wow, well I will have to stop this, or I will have to give this up. Yeah, but on the other side, there's got to be something of more value, or it's not really a sacrifice. That's just quitting something, and going in a different direction. But when you said the mindset, because a lot of people, they might think a struggle, and I see and hear the stories all the time. It's a struggle, it's a problem, it's a challenge, it's a this, it's a that. And just before we came live here, I'm a good tennis fan. I'm playing tennis on my own tennis journey. It's crazy. I only started less than 2 years ago. But Novak Djokovic, we're born 3 days apart. He's been playing most of his life, right? He's world number one. He's the greatest of all time. And right now he's playing against an Argentinian. He went 2 sets down. 2-1. 2-1 he was down. Now it's 2-2, and they've gone into the final set. But he's got a problem. He's got a problem with his leg, and most of the shots he ain't even going for because he don't want to hurt his leg. So he's basically running on half the thing. Can you imagine the mindset that this guy now needs in front of the world? Basically, it's streamed across the world. It's a Grand Slam. How would you translate what's going on there, and how strong of a mindset that he needs to now find a way, come up with a different strategy to stay in the game, and hopefully he wins. Please don't nobody tell me, because I paused it for when I'm finished here. Yeah, but how would you translate that into business, Arnon, with all your experience, all the people that you've worked with, of what's required, where people can actually enjoy it? Because Djokovic is enjoying himself. I mean, yeah, he looks in pain a little bit, but he's enjoying himself, and this is what he loves to do, or he wouldn't be doing it at this age.
I think to keep things very simple and straightforward, one thing I've learned in my business journey, on my entrepreneurship journey, and with amazing people I get to work with, and I truly am blessed to work with some really cool people. And one of the things that is very apparent, doesn't matter how simple you say this, it just is what it is, and that is mindset is everything. And, Henry Ford said it best. He said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right. And I guess, you talk about Djokovic and his winning mentality, his winning mindset. I think one of the things that is misinterpreted in entrepreneurship, falsely misinterpreted in entrepreneurship, is this idea: if a business doesn't work, give up, quit, go back to your job. And what's really interesting, statistically speaking, and I'm sure you and your listeners have heard this before, 80% of all businesses that start up crash, burn, and go bankrupt in the first 2 years from launch. 80%. But what's really interesting, those are businesses that get started up the first time. Those are entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, like first-time home buyers, first-time entrepreneurs that start a business, have an idea, they want to get started. 80% of those businesses crash, burn, go bankrupt in the first 2 years. However, an interesting stat is that whoever gets up for round 2, the chance of success for round 2 is over 80%. And so I think with listening to the tennis and what you've explained and what I see out there in the real world, is that mindset is so important. And if you fall down, stand back up. It's okay to go down and I always say it's okay to lose the battle as long as you win the war. And a lot of people lose the battle and they treat it as like, that's it, it's game over. And, if you're a person that's never gonna quit and never gonna stop, well, then how can you lose? And so this is important. It's like people who want to buy properties, right? And I know you're a leader in the space, and I know you've got some amazing success stories of people who've come and learned from you, and you've trained them, and you've held their hands, and you've walked through the fire with them on their property journey for them to achieve their success. And what's become very apparent is, at the end of the day, it boils down to, listen, if you're tired, learn to rest, not to quit. And if you put in an offer for a property and it doesn't get accepted, you go again. And it's the same thing like everything in life. You just keep going. And that's mindset. And with Djokovic, even if he was to lose, he'd still go again. He'll go again and he'll go again. And a powerhouse.
I remember something. I don't know if you'll remember this or not. I remember we were in London. There was an event. You were training the event. This was years ago. This is before, this is BC. Yeah, before COVID. Yeah, and this is we were in like a breakout room doing a private Q&A. Yeah, and I was in there with you, and someone asked you a question. I don't remember what it was about, but you wrote the word. Well, first of all you put a U on the flip chart. Yeah, and because people are saying like, how do you overcome X and Y and Z and this, and you put a U on there, and everyone's guessing what it was going to be, and you wrote the word until.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that exact. Maybe you've done it a few times, but like I remember, and it hit me. I was like, yeah, like I do it until it works, or I ask until I get my answer, or I make the calls until they say yes, or I find someone. Yeah, so that's the whole
it's really interesting you mentioned that. So just to give all our listeners and all our viewers a little bit of a backstory, people always ask me, what's the difference between the rich and the poor, the wealthy and the successful and the struggling, right? And I always say language is very fundamental. The language of the poor, the language of the struggling, the language of the excuse-driven people, one of their favorite words is try. I'll try to do it. I'll try to show up. I'll try to participate. I'll try to buy a property. I'll try to be on the webinar, on the podcast, on the call. Try. And try is the language of the poor. The language of the broke is try. But language of the wealthy and language of the rich is until. I'll make calls until someone picks up. I'll knock on the door until someone opens the door. I'll put in offers. I'll go to viewings. I'll speak to brokers. I'll go house hunting until I succeed. And that's really the distinction between the struggling, the poor, and the wealthy and the successful. It's the mindset of until.
Yeah, and that's what I love about tennis. I mean, technically, I started tennis as a veteran. At age 35 is veteran age, and every time I lose, because I got used to winning. After a while in business, in life, and it's funny when you were saying old age, I never thought of it that way. I was like, yeah, I failed so many businesses, actually increased my chances later when I started the businesses. Yeah, like I never thought of it that way. Like, yeah, okay, that's what it is. And I actually came to me the other day. I posted this on social media. I realized that, the only way for someone to get it right is because someone got it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't have to be me that don't do what they did, and always be watching for businesses and people. And that's why I always believe in mentors and coaches and training. No matter, some people, they get to the stage or they start training other people, they don't carry on training themselves. I would never stop doing that because I realized that learning curve is insane. So we got a question here, Arnon. Someone say, what are your top 3 books to read?
Okay, great books. Great question. Let me give you some great books. Now, I'm going to make an assumption that the question is around business books. Is that a fair assumption? Business books or books on success?
Yeah, Callum, if you're still there, let us know. But Callum's just joined our tribe, actually. So he's going to be into business, he's going to be into personal development, and he's going to be into property.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you, Callum, I'm gonna give you 2 or 3 foundational books, and then I'm gonna add maybe 1 or 2 must reads that maybe you haven't heard of. Okay, so the foundational books, there's 3 foundational books. Number 1, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Number 2, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And number 3 is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Those are 3 must-read books. And I've been very blessed. I've been mentored by T. Harv Eker himself, the author of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And I'm one of the lead trainers that teaches the Millionaire Mind Intensive around the world. So Secrets of the Millionaire Mind for sure. Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, must read. And then the first one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, who I've had the privilege to share the stage with. I think we've spoken together 2, 3, maybe even 4 times, him and Kim. We did a world tour, and I was privileged to teach alongside Robert. So those are 3 fundamental books that everybody must read. Now, I would definitely add 3 more books on top of that. And the first book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book by Dale Carnegie, a must-read book. So that's How to Win Friends and Influence People. The next book that I would recommend, if you're in business, if you're raising capital, if you want to sell your vision, if you want to build a great team, if you want to be a leader, the next book is called Pitch Anything. Pitch Anything by Oren Clough. Great book. It's definitely one of my top 5, if not certainly my top 10 books. So that book is called Pitch Anything. And then the third book that I'd recommend, as people who are interested in success, financial freedom, I'm going to go back to a Robert Kiyosaki book, and that's the Cash Flow Quadrant. That's a really good book. And you know what? I'm going to give you a bonus, Callum. I'm going to give you a bonus book. And that book is, I think, Mark, we spoke about that book earlier today, or we spoke about it. It was the book that I recommend to you. Do you remember which one? Can you remember what I'm talking about?
It's going to be the one I was going to give. It's this one. Extreme Ownership.
Good man. Yes, good man. Great book. Yeah.
This book is a beast. This book, I couldn't put it down. I was actually in Greece. We were doing some research on resorts and things like that out there. And I remember taking this book, and people thought I was weird because I couldn't put it down. I literally was going to the toilet with it in my hand.
Brilliant.
I just was like, the stories from the Navy SEALs, listen, if you want to take your business, if you want to be in charge of your life, this is a great book to read. That'll put you in absolute responsibility.
Yeah. So, Callum, I hope we answered your question and you got some value out of those books and get value from them.
Yeah. Another thing, if you're committed to success, I think Think and Grow Rich is a phenomenal book, but not many people know that actually that is basically a watered down, diluted version of the Laws of Success in 16 lessons. That's like a 600-page book, and they did Think and Grow Rich because not many people are reading the big chunky book. But that book, that is not a book to read. That is a book to study. That is something to really focus on and practice. Take the things into practical terms in your life. Yeah, awesome. Okay, good. We got another question here. So, what is your advice for anyone who is juggling between a full-time job, family commitment? I think they're saying 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., I guess, and having having the commitment to grow a business.
Yeah. So I'm going to make the assumption that this person would like to get out of their job and experience financial freedom through a business. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. This is another lady who's part of our community. And
great question, Linda. Yeah. So I'm gonna detail this. Okay. So when people talk about creating goals, they talk about one of the analogies that people talk about. They say create SMART goals. And to break down SMART, I'm sure you've all heard of this. People say that the goal's got to be specific. They've got to be measurable. They've got to be people say achievable, and I argue that. And I'm going to give you my version of the SMART. They've got to be specific. They've got to be measurable. They've got to be agreed upon, right? They've got to be R for rewarding and T time sensitive. Now let's go to the agreed upon, because that's really critical here. What I see with a lot of people who want to achieve success, build a business, or get out of the 9 to 5, they're married, they have kids, they've got spouses, they've got relationships. So the first thing I recommend you do is get your spouse, your kids, whoever's in your internal tribe, get them on board. Okay? Make sure that they understand what you want to go for, because it's important that they support you on the journey. One of the key and most important determining factors, whether you'll be successful or not, is who you end up marrying. Okay? So wherever you are in life right now, make sure that your tribe, your kids, your husband, your wife, your family, your mom, your dad, your dog, your cat, whoever, the goals that you're setting, they're agreed upon. So everybody knows, look, I want to become financially free. Look, I want to get out of my job. Look, I want to create, a great lifestyle for our tribe, for our family, for everyone sitting around this table. Great. Everybody on board? Fantastic. That's the first thing I recommend you do. Get your goals agreed upon. Get everybody agreeing to what you want to create. That's going to benefit everybody sitting around your table. That's the first thing. The second thing I would do is, if you are limited in time, which it seems like you are, you start at 7:30 in the morning, you go till 6:30 p.m. By the way, I admire people like you, and really, I'm not saying that in an arrogant or poetic way. I just genuinely, I congratulate you for having that kind of consistency and persistence, for taking care of your family, whether you're enjoying your job or not. But congratulations, because it means that you're a person that is committed. Now all we have to do is shift that commitment from your job to building a successful business, right? But you have commitment, so that's a great thing. So the second thing I would say for you to do is, if you're limited in time, create a mastermind with business partners, or get 4 or 5 people from your friends, from your community, from this tribe that you're in. Mark mentioned you're part of the tribe. If you're limited in time, go create a team where this person can contribute 10 hours a week. This person can contribute 5 hours a week. This person can contribute 2 days a week. This person can contribute 5 hours on a weekend. And cumulatively, you will have less shares in the business, Because let's say you bring in 5 people like that and everybody gets 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, but now you have the hours that you require in order to succeed. And so that is something I would do. If you're limited in time, then surround yourself with more people that can add to that lack of time that you might be experiencing right now because you're in a full-time job. Equally, if you're in a different position, if you have financial muscle, let's say you're financially strong, but you don't have time, then go partner with someone who is time rich, but money poor. Okay, so if you are money rich and time poor, partner with someone who's the paradox from where you're at, and obviously make great agreements. I always say to my clients, make sure when you're setting up a business that you marry like enemies, so that if you need to get divorced, you can divorce like friends. Now, obviously, I'm not saying get married like enemies. I'm just saying write everything down. Think about the worst case scenarios and how you and your business partner or business partners are going to navigate out of that when things are not going smooth. So again, marry like enemies so that if you need to get divorced, you can divorce like friends. And so I hope that helps you and that answers your question.
Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, I think one of the things about the commitment bit, because whatever anybody's going to do, they're going to do. Yeah, like they're going to, like, basically we all got the same hours, so we're all doing something within those hours. I think when people start a business, it's like the one press up syndrome. Like if you just said, hey, listen, you want to get fit, just do one press up. You know, a lot of people, they just wouldn't do it. Yeah. And the business side of that is celebrate. Oh yeah, celebrate. Yeah, no worries, I get it. Yeah, celebrate. I'll celebrate when I get to 10 million. You know, like without celebrating, without the consistent reward, even if it's just in any way, shape, or form, however you got to do it, everybody's different, but you got to celebrate along the way. This is what keeps commitment. This is what works for many, many, many people that, you know, I've trained, I've helped, is to stay consistent with the celebrating, no matter how small. Yeah, because that's what drives.
Important.
Yeah, we've got another question here. So, if you were starting a business today, what would it be and why? And it's saying to solve the highest probability. I think basically it's saying highest success or profit relative to the risk and input.
So I think one thing that people make a mistake when starting a business, they don't understand what real problem they're trying to solve. And let me explain. The way I look at every person's income structure is that we all have 3 key necessities. We have the immediate income that we need to pay our bills, to pay for our insurances, to pay for our health, pay for gas in the car. I drive electric, so to pay for the electricity. So we need income that's going to cover our daily, weekly, monthly costs. Then we need money that's a little bit more midterm, money that we would benefit from, but we don't need immediately to pay our bills. It's money that we would enjoy in 6, 12, 18 months from now. And then the third income is maybe money that will come from being involved in a big project that we might only see the rewards, the fruits of our labor in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. And so the first thing I do is take a step back and ask yourself, okay, so if I'm going to start a business, what do I need that business to facilitate? Do I need that business to generate income for me immediately because I've got no food to eat? I've got to pay the rent tomorrow, and I've got to put I've got to put gas into my car tomorrow, so I need money immediately. Because then you'd build a business that's going to facilitate that need. You're going to need a business that's going to scratch that itch. But if you say, look, I've got a job, or I can dilute my job from 5 days a week to 3 days a week, so I got all my basic costs covered, I can build a business that I know I will take me 6 or 12 or 18 months to really start to reap the rewards from. Well, then your strategy will be very different. And this is something that I find that a lot of people create problems for themselves, is they need short-term income. They start a business that only will generate income for them in 12, 18, 24 months, and then they find themselves in financial ruin. And so you've got to be very sober when you ask yourself the question, which business would you start? So the first thing is, what kind of income do we need? Do we need money to come in next week, next month? that'd be a very different business than if actually I'm financially free, I've got millions in the bank. Well, hopefully, and your students know not to keep their money in the bank. That's the worst place to keep money, right? But you've got cash, you've got cash flow, you've got properties, you've got income, you've got SAs, you've got investments. So you don't need immediate money. So you can build a business that you know you're going to offset and you're going to reap the rewards in 3, 4, 5 years. And so that's the first distinction you've got to make. What kind of itch do you have? Because based on that itch, you're going to scratch. Okay? The problem is if you need money to pay bills tomorrow, but you start a business that you're only going to see money from in 3 years, you're going to create a big problem for yourself. That's the first thing. Now, in terms of what businesses I would start nowadays, I like businesses that are not sexy. Okay? So I'll give you some businesses that I am so right now I'm acquiring accountancy firms. I am buying multi-million pound accountancy firms. Why? Because accountants are the second most trusted advisor that we entrepreneurs have, and in general people have. The first person is our doctor. Believe it or not, some of you, I know you hate your doctors, but they say that your doctor is your most trusted advisor. Your second most trusted advisor is your accountant. So we're acquiring accountancy firms. Also, why we acquire accountancy firms is because normally if you have an accountant, you tend to stay with them for a very long time. You don't normally look for an accountant every week or every month or even every year. I've had my accountant now for 8 years, and she just notified me she's going to retire soon. And I'm like, please don't retire. You know, just here in the Netherlands, my Dutch accountant. And so I buy businesses and I get involved in businesses that are not sexy because I really like those businesses. I also like businesses that are scalable. I like businesses that offer recurring revenue. I also like businesses that don't necessarily rely solely and exclusively on people, and people can be. It's rather easier to bring in people if people want to leave. So right now there's a big wave of outsourcing to South Africa. There's a big wave of outsourcing to India, to Pakistan, to the Philippines. So I try not to get involved in businesses where I'm limited by who's going to service the company. Now, obviously, I'm not an accountant and I don't plan on becoming an accountant, but because I'm buying many accountancy firms, I can then use all the accountants in the other businesses to service all the clients that we have. So accountants are exciting for me. I also like plumbers. Some of you might sit there and laugh. But plumbers, I mean, let's be honest. If you've got a problem with your plumbing in your house, in your home, in your flat, and you need a plumber, you will pay that guy, that gal, that person, any amount of money for them to come out and help you. And so another business that I would be keen on buying or getting involved in is plumbers. They make a lot of money. They can charge ridiculous amounts. And let's be honest, when shit's coming out of your floor, excuse my French, you'll pay anything for it to be fixed. So plumbers are another good business that I'm keen on. And then you've got other businesses like cybersecurity, dentists. Dentists are also another interesting business. You know, we all go to the dentist at least 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year. Yeah. So those are some examples.
All of those businesses, they have something in common, which is what at any time, if I had to start again, I would always start in this business. It's not the only thing, but because there are other businesses that every single person on the planet is going to be involved or wants to be involved. Yeah. Obviously, one of them would be some kind of water. You know, everybody needs water on this planet, right? Yeah. But I'm not going to get in the business of water, but it's real estate. And here's the funny thing is, real estate is easy to do. And people don't get they'll say, oh, but there's problems and challenges. No, here's the thing. It's easy to do. And that's why it's also easy not to do. But at the end of the day, everybody's using a property. Either uh, either you live in a property, or you work in a property, or you go and pay for a service in a property, or you visit someone in a property, or you're going to pass through a property, or you're going to shop in a property. Like, property is required. The question is, will you just be a consumer of property, or will you be a producer of it? And there's enough requirement in the entire planet for everyone to have a little piece in it. And they're like, no, because there's more people. No, think about it. Even someone like me who produces, I still need properties from other people. I need to rent places. I need to rent hotels. We rent retreat spaces. We rent houses. Like, we rent essays. Like, even someone who owns many properties also then needs it from other people who produce it. So that's why there's enough to go around for everybody. So Paul, I hope that answers your question. And plus, everything is already there. Like, when I was in the software business, we got to create the software. Like, you got to get clients, you got to get all this. Like, everybody is already there. The clients are there, the tenants are there, the people who want to buy it's there, the banks are there, the solicitors are there, the construction people are there. It is the only business that can be as hands-on or off as you want from the beginning. I don't know any other really business. Other business in it. You got to be in it. You got to build it. You got to do the rest. You can be totally hands-off. Pay someone to find the deal, and like everything, the whole process.
And it's really interesting because out of all the asset classes, the asset class that has created more millionaires than any other asset class in the world is the asset class called property.
Yeah. So that's it. We're running out of time. Our guys will be going into their private mastermind. Now, also for Real Life Tribe people, you don't know, but later this month, we've been here, we've talked publicly here today, but Arnon is going to be joining us on the 2 to 10 million pound business and property panel. Obviously, when it's private, we can talk about whatever. You guys will be on Zoom, we'll be interacting. So do not miss that. You don't want to make sure you miss that. It's on the 3rd Thursday of this month. So we'll be seeing you guys there in our private community. For everyone else, thank you for listening. Arnon, thank you for coming on. Great value, great insights. We could have talked for many hours about this vast subject of business. I just hope people get out there and get started doing something. So Arnon, again, appreciate you coming on and adding all the value. We do have a saying, in our community, that you got to do the right thing for the right reason. What's your opinion on why that to be true?
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's all about following your truth. And what's really interesting? I meet many different people from many different races, creeds, backgrounds, religions, stories. And one thing that's really, really apparent to me, that when we strip everything down to the bare bone, we're all kind, loving, good people that just want to help and support everyone. So doing the right thing for the right reason it's just befitting. Yeah, feels good.
Love it. Thank you very much. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for everyone listening. And as everybody knows, in our community, we do the right thing for the right reason, because it's the only way we'll discover our true potential.